Hey, it's Tuesday. Time for the Classic Guitar Rock Update. I'm Jeremy. Thanks for joining. By the way, you can subscribe on Twitter, now X, for as little as $1 a month and help us take over the world. Few items to get to today. One of the guitarists that has been fascinating to me over the years because he was so good and then just went away was Vito Bratta. Remember White Lion in the mid to late 80s? They had a few good albums. They were kind of, just an okay band, but Vito was a phenomenal guitar player. Kind of some Eddie Van Halen going on there, but it was more than just an Eddie clone. He was really good. Well, on Ultimate Classic Rock, they have a little blurb about Vito, which was really interesting. Guys, I'm a sucker for Aussie guitarists. Any stories of guitarists who auditioned for Aussie, I love to hear those stories. And what do you know? Vito Bratta had an opportunity to audition for Aussie's band. This was before White Lion, and this was during the era when Brad Gillis was playing with Ozzy after Randy's death. I think everyone in the Ozzy camp knew that Brad's time with the band was going to be short-lived. I think they liked Brad. Brad came in a very tough time, did a great job for them, recorded the Speak of the Devil album, which to me is an awesome live album, and I think Brad did a great job. But they knew his heart wasn't in it. They knew that he had plans for Night Ranger, his other band. And in fact, an interesting little footnote, Brad Gillis may be the only person, if not one of the very few people, the Night Ranger debut album and Speak of the Devil were both on the charts, like in the top 10 at the same time. So he's on two different top 10 albums with two different bands at the same time, which was kind of cool. Anyways, I digress. It was during this period that the Aussie camp got a cassette of Vito Bratta from a cover band that he was in. This cover band did about an hour's worth of Sabbath material. So Vito was up on the Sabbath stuff, and he got a call. He says he thinks it was from Sharon. It was a lady. He didn't know for sure. He doesn't recall. He says he thinks it was from Sharon. Called and asked if he would be interested in auditioning. And they knew he knew the Sabbath stuff, but he didn't know any of the Randy stuff. He said he was a fan of Randy, but he just hadn't had the time to sit down and work out Randy's stuff from the first two Ozzy albums. And so they're wanting him to come down to the Ritz. I'm assuming this is around the same time they're recording Speak of the Devil, because that's where they recorded Speak of the Devil. But they're wanting him to come down like right away to do it, to audition. And he says, I don't know Randy's stuff. And this lady on the phone that he presumed was Sharon said, well, how long would it take you to do it? And he said, it'd take a week. And apparently that was too long because she hung up, and that was kind of the end of the call. He said he would need a week, which even in a week would be pretty aggressive schedule to learn the first two Ozzy albums. So that never came to fruition. Then another great Vito story that this article mentions, and of course, this again is on Ultimate Classic Rock. Kiss was interested in Vito. They came out to see him perform. They really liked him. Gene told him, hey, dude, you'd be perfect for Kiss. Would you be interested? And of course he was interested. Everyone, at that time would have been interested in being in Kiss. But then here's what blew it. They wanted him to change his name because they thought it was too ethnic. Kiss, Gene and Paul, ever the marketers, ever the businessmen to brand, that's why they had names like Vinnie Vincent and Paul. Gene and Paul have changed their names, obviously. So the names were very important, and they didn't think Vito Bratta would work. And that kind of cooled Vito off on the idea. He wasn't really interested at that point, that they wanted to change the name. So just some interesting little tidbits about Vito Bratta. Go back and listen to Little Fighter by White Lion. Man, it's one of my favorite tunes. Great guitar solo. Vito's a great player, and kind of just dropped off the map in the 90s And just recently in the last couple of years, has he even done any interviews? He was just kind of gone for 30 years. And I think he was taking care of a family member or something that was, needed help or something. I don't know all the details, but he's been out of the music scene for lots of years. But just over the last couple of years, you've seen him pop up in interviews anyways. But Vito Bratta, interesting guy, great guitar player. Speaking of Ozzy, way back in 2003, Ozzy had a near fatal four-wheeler accident, wrecked, and they literally, it about killed him. And he has had lots of troubles, back problems since then. He had a fall in 2019, fell down, and that, re-injured things, messed things up. Well, Ozzy is going in for what he calls his final surgery. He's having another neck surgery done, and he's had this done several times. I think this is his fourth major surgery on his spine or neck. And any of you that have had this done, man, this is not pleasant, not easy to recover from. But Ozzy, who's 74 now, he says, this will be my last surgery. Whether it solves the problem or not, this is the last time I'm doing this. So I'm not trying to be negative. I think we are seeing the end of Ozzy as a touring entity. I don't think he'll be able to tour anymore. That's my prediction. I don't think there's been any official announcement that he'll never tour again, but his health is in such a state that we will probably not see him tour again. Hopefully we'll still get some albums, but maybe not. He might be done. He's in a lot of pain, right? And he says that I'm in pain all the time. And he says this surgery will be his last. Lastly, I have a KK Downing news item, and I'm not going to rip on KK. I've been giving KK a hard time for his recent whining about wanting to come back into Judas Priest. But KK Downing has formed a new band. Unfortunate, I think, that he called the band KK's Priest. Just dumb. Why would you do that? Here I am. I said I'd be nice, and I'm not being nice. KK's Priest is releasing their second album. It's called The Sinner Rides Again on September 29th. It's on Napalm Records. Their first album, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's great, but I listened to it. I enjoyed it. I think Tim Ripper Owens does a great job. KK Downing, great guitarist. So not a bad album. But this new album, The Sinner Rides Again, is released on September 29th. Excuse me. And KK's Priest has released a little documentary, 13 minutes long. You can see a documentary. It's about their first show last year when they were debuting the new album. They're playing at KK's steel mill in England. And it's kind of cool. I mean, it's a documentary. It's talking to people behind the scenes. You see a little of them on stage. And it's 13 minutes. Check it out. If you go on YouTube and just put KK Priest documentary, it'll come up. And this is all in preparation for the release of the new KK's Priest album that comes out on September 29th. Tim Ripper Owens sounds great, looks great. The band is good. Pretty heavy stuff. It's definitely more like the heavier, the later version of Judas Priest sound than kind of the classic Priest sound that I'm a big fan of, but still good stuff. So keep an eye out for KK's Priest album, The Sinner Rides Again, that comes out on September 29th. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for supporting us on X. Thanks for following us on Twitter, on Facebook, and we'll see you tomorrow for our next Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. Take care and bye-bye.